Good evening, Dr. Ledbetter, President of the Board, and board members. Today we're going to bring you an update on House Bill 3 goals and progress monitoring. House Bill 3 is a reflection of the goals set by 60 by 30 by TEA. Those goals are that by the year 2024, 60% of all students will be at meets on the state standardized test for third grade reading, and 60% of all students will have met CCMR indicators for graduation. This is aligned to the superintendent metrics. You can see here the red boxes are college and career readiness goals that align with CCMR in House Bill 3, and the blue indicators align with early literacy and math for the House Bill 3 goals there. They also align with the principal metrics. Again, here, red are CCMR indicators, and blue are early literacy and early math indicators for principals. This is a review of our timeline. You've been on this journey with us. We had board members as a part of our planning for House Bill 3 goals. We presented those goals to you in draft form in December of last year and brought them to you for approval in January. Over the spring and summer, we have worked to develop progress monitoring plans, and campuses have those in place. And so now we're at a spot where we're ready to bring you an update on where we are in that progress monitoring. As a review, these are our 3 goals. That goal 1 is that the percent of third grade students will score meets at grade level or above on the STAR reading, moving from 46.57 to 60%. By June 2024, and that's for third grade students. Goal 2 is that third grade students will score meets on the math STAR, and that will increase from 55 to 61% by June 2024. And goal 3 is that students graduating with a CCMR indicator will increase from 68 to 80% by June 2024.
Good evening. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the third grade reading and math goals. So as we begin, let's review what our third grade reading goal is that Nikki just shared with us. As we recall, there was no test at the end of 2020 due to COVID. So 2021 will go back to STAR data with the goal of having 51% of our students this spring at meets in third grade reading. So looking at our progress monitoring, starting first with pre-K, you'll see our goal there is to move from 85% in June of 2019 to 90% by June of 2024 in emergent literacy reading for pre-K. Beginning of the year, we began with looking at the circle assessment. The circle assessment focuses on rapid letter naming and rapid vocabulary, looking for the automaticity and fluency of students as that is directly correlated with reading success at later grades. Phonological awareness is also assessed, which is the ability to hear the parts of the words and hear sounds. These are not always skills that parents work with at home with their students, but are learned throughout the pre-K program. The circle assessment is the only assessment that we have that scores based on the actual child's age. Therefore, the beginning of the year scores tend to be a little bit higher than we see in other grade levels. Right now, we are right on target with 51% of our children at the BOY meeting expectations. We have worked with Region 10 the past 3 years and will continue that for the mandatory coaching days as connected to a high-quality pre-K program for the state. In addition, this year, we have the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston's Children's Learning Institute, who actually created the circle assessment, working with our pre-K and ECSE teachers at each iPlan day on building academic vocabulary and developing talkers. We have purchased the Developing Talkers kit for all of our pre-K and ECSE classrooms as well, and an additional phonological awareness resource for our teachers to use. These resources will assist our teachers in preparing our students for success. The pre-K curriculum is up for adoption this year, so we will be reviewing the state adopted materials for a new comprehensive pre-K curriculum for the next school year. When we look at the demographic data on our beginning of the year circle assessment, you will see that the first row shows our beginning of the year demographic data, and the second row begins with end of the year, starting with our end of the year for this spring of 2021 and what our goals are for each demographic subpopulation. Although our Hispanic and white demographic data shows a little bit lower than the others, we are confident with the additional support on building vocabulary, we will see great growth by the end of this year. Moving on to our kindergarten progress monitoring. Amplify is a new assessment that we are using for our kindergarten students this school year. We feel like this information provided through this assessment will be more valuable for our teachers. The assessment is based also on automaticity of several foundational components, such as letter naming, phonemic awareness, letter sounds, decoding, and word reading. Again, we have the beginning of the year 2021, where 48% of our students were at benchmark. And by the end of the year of 2021, our goal is 73% of our students will be at benchmark. Our early childhood coach, who is an expert coming from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, has already begun to work with our teachers after meeting with principals and reviewing the data. She's able to meet with them during PLCs, provide resources, model for them, create videos, observe them in classrooms, and just simply provide personalized support to our teachers. Our iCoaches are also working with our teachers to analyze this data and help dig in to see where the strengths and challenges are for each individual child. There are many other extra resources available through Amplify that our teachers are also able to use to create individual lessons for our students. We have our campus leaders digging into the reading academies starting this year to help make connections of what we are doing with the science of teaching reading and areas that will need to be tweaked in the coming years as our teachers begin these academies. This grade level is also receiving an additional phonological awareness resource that our early education coach will be able to assist them with. Looking at the demographic data for kindergarten, it's pretty even across the board, and why we expect it to be for beginning of the year. Again, the 2021 row will be our end of the year goals for this school year. As we look at the progress monitoring for first through third grades in the area of reading, we use iStation. We have our end of the year scores from 2019 that we based our goals on. But under that, you will see our beginning of the year 2020 scores for each grade level. Again, this is about where we expect for beginning of the year for first grade. We do see a slight dip in our percentages for second and third grade, which very easily could be connected to the COVID gaps. Our second and third grade teachers are working to eliminate these gaps in their classrooms. Our early childhood coach, again, is working with these teachers, focusing on what happens in small group instruction to make it more purposeful based on the data and what we know about the science of teaching reading. She is also working with our teachers on the decoding to encoding process that is appropriate for each grade level and how to connect that into whole group and small group using our new ELAR adoption from last school year. Our iCoaches are working with our teachers in these grade levels to also dig into the data. They received additional iStation training that was specialized in looking at the data and the additional resources and are working now with the teachers in that area. They will again have specialized training in middle of the year that will be followed up with the teachers. First grade is receiving an additional phonological awareness resource, and all grade levels will receive some additional station activities. First through third grade will be receiving a new program that is called Amira, which is an avatar that listens, tutors, and interacts with students while taking a record of their reading. Our response to interventionist specialists, our RTI specialists, and other interventionists are working with our students who are most in need, as identified from this data, as well as assisting teachers with intervention strategies. Having these specialists who are also involved in our state reading academies with their principals and assistant principals and iCoaches is giving them more tools for reaching their struggling students and increasing student achievement. This is the demographic data for our beginning of the year for first, second, and third grade from the iStation. We will expect that all will increase by at least 20% by the end of the year. That is usually about the norm for beginning of the year to end of the year increases. We will have a special focus on our white and 2 or more races to make sure that they are receiving the individualized services that they need for additional acceleration of their growth. When we look at the big reading initiatives that we are focusing on this school year, you will see that we have talked a lot about our early childhood coach, and we have her meeting with principals on a regular basis, determining the focus and the needs as well as the outcomes from her meetings. She's working with teachers during their PLCs as well as in their classrooms. She's creating those instructional videos. She will be assisting us in training teachers during iPlan days, as well as meeting with me every couple of weeks to debrief on what is going on and provide next steps. Our principals, assistant principals, and I-coaches, as well as our RTI specialists and interventionists, began working with the University of Texas at Austin's Meadow Center for Preventing Educational Risk through the state reading academies. They have completed modules 1 through 5 out of 12 complete modules. They have received 1 of their 4 coaching days on campuses, where our cohort leader is working with them, walking classrooms, discussing academic content as to what's actually seen in classrooms, attending PLCs, and just being a think partner for our campus leaders. We focus on analyzing the data at this time of the year from our BOY data from Circle, Amplify, iStation, as well as our pre and post PIEs to ensure that we are continuing progress monitoring of our grade level skills and are moving forward in those areas. As we move on to third grade math, our third grade math goal is there. Again, just to remember that in 2020, we did not have STAR due to COVID. So we looked at our Imagine Math data there. But beginning again in 2021, we have the goal where 58% of our students in third grade will be at meets on the Math STAR. As we look at the progress monitoring for pre-K in the area of math, we'll see that we will increase from 90% to 95%. Pre-K math is also assessed on our Circle assessment. This is extremely high for beginning of the year, but it is based again on the child's actual age. Teachers do look at individual areas of need for each child to focus on. Parents are more apt to focus on the type of skills of counting and shapes with their students or with their children than on such as the phonological awareness ones that we saw in the area of reading. So it's pretty typical to see this beginning of the year data be extremely high. Again, we have our Region 10 coaching starting for our third year, and we have purchased several mathematical resources for pre-K that they're implementing this school year as we prepare for a new adoption for the next school year. Our demographic data for pre-K from Circle is all relatively high. And again, our teachers focus on individual student needs. When we look at kindergarten progress monitoring, we again are looking at this first year of using our Amplify assessment in our kindergarten classrooms. Again, it is based very much on automaticity and the fluency of our students in number identification, quantity discrimination, counting, and even identifying missing numbers. These were some pretty hard skills for beginning of the year kindergarten, and we know that we have some COVID gaps, even if children were not in pre-K, as daycares were probably shut down from March through the summer as well. Although some of these skills are often worked on at home, because this assessment is capturing the fluency of students, they are 1-minute timed assessments. So we know that we will see great growth throughout the school year as our teachers touch on these areas. So we have our goal of 2021 at the end of this school year to have 60% of our students at benchmark. Again, our early childhood coach is able to assist our teachers in multiple ways. I-coaches are working to analyze this data to help them inform their instruction as well as planning and working with the teachers in their classrooms. We purchased several new math resources for our teachers last year from the early education allotment that they have received training on now and have begun implementation. This will assist them in building these skills and the automaticity for our students. Knowing this is a new assessment, and by the end of the year, our teachers will understand the format of this assessment even better, we expect large growth in our students. As teachers are also focusing on individual students' needs, students will show success in order to meet our goals for the 2021 school year. Our first through third grade progress monitoring is used with Imagine Math. Unfortunately, Imagine Math is a company that has not built into the demographic data, but has worked with us so that at each end of the year, we will be able to have that demographic data. Here are the beginning of the year for 2020 and the goals for each year. Again, starting with 2021 this spring. We do have low beginning of the year for third grade expected after the COVID gap. We also know that this assessment has been around for many years for third grade and up, but it is a relatively new assessment just created for first and second grade from the company. We also know that over 25 new TEKs begin in third grade that have not been covered in first and second grade, which also is a reason why our third grade beginning of the year scores are always much lower than our first and second grade. Second grade is more of an extension of first grade, so it is expected to see those beginning of the year scores slightly higher than first grades. Again, our iCoaches are having conversations about analyzing this data and using it to inform their instruction. We've had trainings on the new resources for math that were purchased last year from the early education allotment, and sharing instructional videos for teachers to watch on their own time or with PLCs on how to work on math skills. We are also doing our pre and post progress indicators from the district level for these grade levels in math, and our iCoaches and administrators are analyzing these with the teachers to inform their instruction. These pre and post pies will allow teachers to measure the knowledge of their students on essential skills for each unit and know how to differentiate their instruction. When we look at the big math initiatives for this school year, it truly is focused on the implementation of the new hand-to-mind resources that were purchased last year. These resources directly focus on conceptual math understanding and our state standards. Again, we have our early childhood coach working with our teachers, especially in kindergarten, with that automaticity. And we have our iCoaches and campus administrators analyzing the pre and post pies to inform instruction and to differentiate to meet individual students' needs, including assessing and looking at those COVID gaps. Our overall elementary initiatives this year are our iCoaches really supporting our teachers with best practices connected to the district's learner experiences and best practices from Engage to Learn. We also have our iCoaches, as I've said, really working with our teachers and analyzing the data and really digging into it more than we have in previous years. We have explicit instruction training for our principals, assistant principals, and iCoaches from the University of Texas Meadow Center for Preventing Educational Risk, with support on how to turn around small pieces to their staff, and as we concentrate on explicit instruction in next year's summer academies. Ongoing support from these two national research institutes through our early childhood coach and our leader of the reading academies is going to make great gains in our teachers' instructional knowledge, as well as our campus leaders with their ability to lead the conversations to make the growth needed to reach all of our goals in these areas.
Now we'll revisit our CCMR goals for House Bill 3. You can see here our goal is to move from 68.3% CCMR to 80% CCMR ready by June 2024, and each year's targeted goals. CCMR is a final measure that is reported on the TAPER report. So typically every fall we get the TAPER release with our CCMR indicator on it. We're still waiting on the TAPER to be released for this year. The TA does not have a date yet. It's just saying that will be released in the fall. So as soon as that is released, we'll be able to report final numbers for CCMR. but we do have projections based off the data we have tracked over the past school year. You can see here historical data for both Heritage and Midlothian High School and projections for each year. Remember, this is lagging data, so data projections for the year 2020 accountability is based off of 2018-2019 student graduates. So for Heritage High School, you'll see 167 out of 220 students. We project will have met CCMR readiness standards, which would put Heritage High School at 75% CCMR ready. Midlothian High School is projected for 2020 to have 251 of their 376 students to meet CCMR readiness, which would be 66%, which would be another 1% growth over previous years. You can see here that we do have projections for 2021 accountability, which would be this past spring's graduate, and then 22 accountability projected based off of this year's current graduates. We still have an opportunity to reach this year's students' graduates, and we will talk about plans that are in place to help those students who do not have the CCMR indicator met yet for the 2022 accountability measure. So here you can see moving from 68.3%, our projected goal for 2020 accountability was 70%. We are projecting right now that we'll be right around 70.1% CCMR ready, and we'll have met that goal. Again, that final data will be released on the taper this fall. Our projection for 2021's accountability, which will be based off of last year's seniors, we do expect an impact due to COVID. There were a lot of students who were not able to take ACT, SAT, TSI tests in the fall, and that impacted their ability to become CCMR ready for college. Additionally, a lot of colleges and universities waived TSI requirements for college entrance for this fall, which would have maybe impacted students' decisions to pursue taking those tests over the summer, which would have gained them an indicator for us. So a lot of those students are currently taking the TSI test who would have graduated last year for spring college admittance. And that would have been an additional indicator that would not have been reported for students that were 2020 graduates for us. So we do expect a hit to the CCMR indicator for our 2020 graduates in this year's accountability 2021. But for 2022, we're already projecting great numbers. And those students that have not yet met CCMR readiness, our principals have plans in place to reach out to them to help them either TSI test, retake ACT or SAT tests, take college credit or dual credit hours, or earn CTE certifications. Here's a look at the demographic data for CCMR. You can see across the board our projected 2020 district data of 70.1%, and then each of the categories for the demographics in the district. This is a new tracking tool that we have put into place. So each campus has a list of all of their students and their CCMR indicator readiness points that they may have earned. So it includes their demographics, their TSI scores, ACT scores, SAT scores, any CTE certifications. And this is just a way to help principals progress monitor on their campuses to see which students have and have not earned a CCMR point for CCMR readiness in House Bill 3. Our plans for 2020-2021 is to continue implementing the new tracker for each campus. We also became a TSI testing site, so both Midlothian High School and Heritage High School can now TSI test on their campuses. And we've done some successful rounds of testing this fall and look forward to doing more testing in the spring to help students become college ready. We've also implemented the SAT school day, so all students are allowed to take SAT on their campuses. We have trained internal boot camp instructors. Last year, we added SAT boot camp instructors internally. This past summer, we trained ACT boot camp instructors, so we have MISD teachers teaching each of those boot camps on Saturdays for our students to help prepare for SAT and ACT tests. We are exploring an option for College Bridge, which would allow students to earn a CCMR indicator point. Of course, we're always expanding our CTE certifications. That was one of the areas that we took a hit in last year. students were not able to complete their certifications in the spring because of the COVID closure, but we are looking forward to the numbers and opportunities for students to take those certifications this year and add to that. And then for the military part of CCMR, we are adding JROTC as a course offering. And I think you'll see that in the new courses information item tonight. That JROTC is an addition to help bring military awareness to our students as a course offering for the 2021-2022 school year. That is our presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.